Welcome to the Butler Beat. I'm Mallory Duncan. With Easter right around the corner, reminders of religion are everywhere. But are college students recognizing these reminders? Or are the only things they correlate with Easter chocolate bunnies and plastic eggs? Marguerite Stanciu from the Center of Faith and Vocation is here to talk about religion trends in college students and on college campuses. Thank you very much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
So first of all, how long have you been with the Center of Faith and Vocation on Butler's campus?
I'm in my 6th year at the center.
Perfect. And could you talk about some of the religious makeup of campus, like students that you see coming to the center and things like that?
Well, actually Butler University is a really diverse campus, religiously speaking. We have about 30% of our students Catholics, about 25% are non-denominational, and then we have a variety of different faith traditions, and all of which practice through the Center for Faith and Vocation.
And what are some options for students on campus who want to participate in their certain religions? What kind of things do we have on campus for their each religion?
Sure. Well, there are many different opportunities for students. We have student religious organizations, and they have their weekly faith meetings. They also practice holidays and religious services every week. There are Bible studies on campus throughout the dorms and in several of the Greek houses. So there are a lot of different ways that students can practice a faith tradition.
And in the Center of Faith and Vocation, what kind of things do you hold in there for these different student organizations on campus?
Well, we have a variety of activities, not just the faith tradition piece, but we also are, of course, vocation. And so traditionally a lot of people think that vocation means some kind of religious calling. So you're going to come into the Center for Faith and Vocation and exit, as a nun or a monk or something like that, which isn't the case. So the larger mission of the center has to do with the vocations piece, meaning discerning a life of purpose or meaning. So we try to help our students connect with what's important to them at Butler and beyond, and we do that in a variety of ways. We offer on-campus advising, and we also have yoga, restorative yoga classes, and secular meditation practice. And we offer internships in faith-based and social justice organizations, so students have an opportunity to try on some of the work that they may be called to do.
That's very interesting. And in a survey of college students conducted by UCLA, the results showed that 52% of the students said that they regularly attended religious services the year before entering college, but by their junior year, this attendance had dropped to 29%. Do you see a trend of upperclassmen that are dropping out of religious activities?
Well, I think, first of all, coming to university is a time of growth and exploration, and sometimes that means leaving behind, some of what you've been brought up with, and exploring other opportunities or ways of thinking, ways of perceiving life. So there sometimes can be a natural fall off on the part of students when they come. And many times upper class students will reconnect with their faith tradition, or they may be involved in other activities that give them meaning and purpose as well.
So how would you address a student who is worrying about continuing in their faith or stepping away from their parents? How would you advise a student in that way?
Well, I think it's important to consider that when a person is trying to understand, sort of grapple with the big questions of life, that there's going to be uncertainty, there's going to be doubt, and sometimes we have to live with the questions that we have. And recently, for instance, we offered a class at the center called Finding Comfort in Spiritual Questioning. And this was for students to come and explore, what their questions were, and to give them permission to do that, and not to convey the message that there's somehow a problem, that you're moving away from your faith tradition or you're not sure where you are with that. There's plenty of support for that at the center. And we're also really interested in students who might express some values based in secular humanism. So they might consider themselves to be spiritual but not particularly religious at this time.
Do you have any other classes that are upcoming in the Center for Faith and Vocation for students?
Well, we have monthly conversations called Big Questions, and this is a student-driven program which is mentored by a faculty. And basically what we do is we look at what are the questions that students are asking currently on campus. And sometimes we have recurring themes. So we always have a re-entering the Butler bubble after being abroad, studying abroad. We might have a question about how do you integrate your, we had actually a really interesting one last year, integrating religious identity, gender, and sexuality. So what we do is we reach out to different student organizations on campus, and we really like to co-sponsor events. So we have these different forums that people can come and discuss.
And then another trend that they're seeing from this same survey is that students are completely cutting their religious ties. Why do you think that is? Is it more of like parental involvement when they were at home and now they're free from that, or is there other factors as well?
Yeah, I think that, well, cutting religious ties, I'm not sure of how often people actually thoroughly cut religious ties. If people have been brought up in a particular culture of religion in their family, then likely that's contributed to their formation as a person. So they may not be formally associated, but somehow this has helped to shape who they are as people. So I don't think that actually ever really goes away. Sometimes students will actually convert to another religious tradition. So it's a very personal journey, and always there are unique outcomes.
And then when they're switching from that religion, do you guys at the center help them through that? What kind of religions do you represent at the center? Is it just very wide?
Well, we have two mentors through the student religious organizations. So we have a faculty or staff advisor, and they're part of that faith tradition. But we also have campus ministers assigned to Butler. So for instance, there's a priest with the Butler Catholic community, there's a Lutheran Episcopal minister, there's a rabbi. I'm a Buddhist, and so I advise from the Buddhist framework. So if a student is actually considering taking the steps of exploring another tradition, they have resources available to them to talk about that.
That's very good for a college student who's trying to figure out life and trying to go through, not only this change of being away from their parents and being, alone and on their own and trying to live like that, but someone who's struggling to realize, what is life and things like that. So,
right. And Butler is a non-affiliated school, so we're not a religious university, but we do want to have an opportunity for students to explore their religion, their faith, their spirituality.
So you've touched on it a little bit, but can you just give us the goals and the mission for the Center of Faith and Vocation for all students on campus?
Well, the Center for Faith and Vocation is the anchor for religious life on campus. So we offer students an opportunity to come and connect with the faith tradition that they're already practicing in, or another tradition that they wish to explore. I mentioned secular humanists are very welcome at the center. And then the vocations piece has to do with discerning a life of meaning and purpose, as I said, which has to do with, what's the bigger picture, what is my experience, my place at Butler and beyond my experience at Butler. And we do also offer services to faculty and staff. They're very much a part of the Center for Faith and Vocation, whether they're learning about what is vocation in the life of our students, or how can I mentor a student in that regard, or what is my own personal journey. So it's all sort of fits together.
And going back to that same UCLA survey, it showed that 76% of college undergraduates have an interest in spiritual things. How do you at the Blue House, or the Center of Faith and Vocation, cater to that interest?
I think this idea of vocational discernment is really important because students don't necessarily want to identify with a particular religious tradition, but they feel some kind of yearning to connect with something bigger than themselves. And so we're there to encourage and support that. And we also reach out to the colleges and faculty within the colleges to help our students connect with those individuals who might be able to have meaningful conversations with them.
So if there is a student group that, let's say, wants to have a Bible study or wants to start a new religious affiliation group on campus, would they go to you first?
They do. They come to the director of the center, Judith Bula, and they start with her and they talk about what it is they'd like to do. And she's constantly networking with congregations within the Indianapolis community. People approach her all the time about that. And we've had several new student groups come to the center this year and start having weekly meetings.
What are some of those new student groups that we've seen this year?
Well, we have the Coalition for Christian Outreach, which is actually a partnership with the Second Presbyterian Church, but it's very much a non-denominational ecumenical organization. We have something called Converge, which is based largely in the Methodist tradition. We have Pinky Promise that has just come to the center in the last month or so. So we've got a number of emerging groups at Butler.
Wow, that's very cool. And then looking back, you've been at the center for 6 years. What would be your dreams and goals for the Blue House looking forward in the future?
Well, I work as a program coordinator, so I'm very much working on a practical level.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thought I have is space. We have a prayer space in the building, but it's very small. It's about the size of this meeting area here. And within the course of a day or a week, we might have Muslim prayer take place, an Episcopal service, meditation, and a Catholic Mass, all in the space of 3 or 4 hours. So it would be wonderful if we could have a larger prayer space on campus, and also to continue our efforts to reach out to the Indianapolis community. We'd love to have more classroom space or meeting space, places where people can come and talk about meaning and purpose.
Mm-hmm. And that would affect students in a very positive way as well.
Yes.
So can we go back to Easter with it coming up this Sunday? And I know Passover week was this week. What events are going on this weekend at the Center for Faith and Vocation for students who may not be able to go home for Easter or are just staying on campus this weekend but still want to be a part of, that important holiday in their religion?
Well, as we speak, the Butler Catholic community is getting set up for an Easter service, a Good Friday service at noon. And then tonight, the Coalition for Christian Outreach will have a program about Easter. And then on Sunday, there's going to be a Mass in Robertson Hall.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. Coming up next on the Butler Beat, JoJo Gentry will be talking to 2 Butler students about the Stay Positive campaign to fight cancer.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Butler Beat. I'm JoJo Gentry. Stay Positive is a campaign created by Butler sophomore Eric Day, who is a brain cancer survivor. Eric has been cancer-free for just over 1 year. Butler junior Eric Fromm is joining Day for a Stay Positive night in April to promote the campaign. Stay Positive holds a special meeting not only to others who have lived or who have loved ones with cancer, but to others who listen to his story. Eric, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So, Eric Day, my first question for you is, what inspired you to start this campaign?
Well, back in the day, 2010, I was diagnosed with brain cancer, and so I had a couple of brain operations, a major stroke, a feeding tube, breathing tube, you name it, I probably had it. Just kind of lived with the Stay Positive motto because regardless of the situation, I'm still going to have cancer. So then I decided to go back to school at Indiana State, and the following year, the week before finals, I was diagnosed again with my tumor was growing. So I had complete proton radiation therapy in Bloomington, Indiana, and I met this little girl named Allison who's 7 and is the most inspirational, positive person you'll ever meet. And so I always was around her and just spreading that positive message. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stay positive. It's just no matter what goes through my head that day, it's just gonna be a positive day. So after graduating from radiation, I attended Butler, and I made these wristbands that just say "Stay positive" on them. And so I started making them, and it was amazing how many people started coming up to me and it's like, "Hey, can I get my hands on one of those Stay Positive bands?" So I just started off with 50, and the thing just escalated.
So tell me exactly what your Stay Positive campaign stands for.
Stay Positive campaign is basically, I just want to raise like $100,000 for American Cancer Society and the Jill's House in Bloomington, which is a not-for-profit house. And the meaning behind it is stay positive on one side, it's just how we should live our life. And then G3 is give God glory. Rodney Clark always sends his autographs, so I just thought it was a great motto to live by because he's the one that gives you the power and whatnot. So I just kind of live by the G3 and the Stay Positive motto.
And when did this idea of starting the Stay Positive campaign begin?
Well, I just made the 50 before I came to school, or during school, I guess, because I met Rodney here since I'm a transfer student from Indiana State. And so I just started making these wristbands, and Eric Fromm lost his father and asked me if he could get a couple of these wristbands. And then I just thought, you know what, if I just sold them for $1 a piece, the proceeds could just go to Cancer Research, American Cancer Society, or the Jill's House.
So you stood in Jill's House in Bloomington to receive cancer treatment. And can you tell me what Jill's House is and what you gained from your stay there?
Yeah, basically when you're going through proton radiation therapy in Bloomington, it's a non-for-profit house that you can stay at is the Jill's House. And there's all types of patients that are going through the proton therapy can stay there. And basically what's nice is everybody has their own room, but there's 4 kitchens. So you're interacting with patients all day long, which is really nice because everybody's going through somewhat the same thing you are. So it's nice to be able to interact with people that are having the same issues.
And what did your stay at Jill's House teach you the most about staying positive?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, that little girl, like I mentioned earlier, Allison, who's 7, who would go through radiation in the morning and then complete chemotherapy at night through her feeding tube. And she would always just run around the kitchen, want to play hide and go seek, you know. I mean, when you just want to go to treatment and then go lay down for the day, I mean, that's about all you want to do. Not her. I mean, she wanted to have fun. We lived 24 hours a day. We had fun, hide and go seek. I had this little dog app on my phone. Every morning she'd sit on my lap and just take care of these dogs, you know, and that was the first thing we had to do every morning. She had to make sure the dogs were fed and had to go out to the restroom, which was awesome.
So tell me how Allison's relationship with you has made you stronger.
Every day, because since she's still in school, she needed to be tutored, and so I would sit down there with her mom, and the first couple of days, like I really didn't know him well enough. I just sit there and kind of watch him, and then slowly as we were all there, because we spent 30 days together, and by about week 2, I just asked her mom, "Hey, do you mind if I help out a little bit, give me something to do?" And she's like, "Absolutely." And just the satisfaction I got from helping her out was just kind of like, this is my calling in life, is to be a teacher possibly.
And tell me what it has been like to come back to Butler completely cancer-free.
I mean, anytime you get the good news, I mean, cancer has won the battle many times, but I can proudly say I've won it 3 times against it, so it's such a good feeling.
Okay, now I'm going to switch over to you, Eric. I understand that the Stay Positive Night is scheduled to have speakers, you being one of them, alongside with Rodney Clark and Eric Day. So there will be food, Stay Positive wristbands being sold, as well as all of you speakers. So what will be the main focus of the benefit concert?
Well, the main focus is kind of to just spread the word on the whole campaign and bring people who have been experienced, who have experienced cancer or who have someone who's been affected by it. Everybody just come, and I think we have an open mic aspect of the night, so you can share your thoughts and your feelings, and just to bring like minds together and have a good fun night.
And what has inspired you to get involved with the Stay Positive campaign?
Well, my dad came up with multiple myeloma cancer, which is an incurable blood disease or blood cancer, in July this summer, and so he had been battling it all the way up until February when he passed away 2 days before my birthday. And basically the whole fall, I met Eric sometime in August or September, and we started hanging out, and he was telling me about the campaign and the bands and stuff, and it just helped me get through it. And my my dad would always say it's all about perspective, which is essentially the same thing as stay positive, because it's just how you view situations and what happens to you. So kind of when my dad passed, Eric and I were talking about it, and we just thought it would be a great idea to kind of try to mass produce these bands and see if we can sell them and donate it all for cancer research in Jill's house.
So can you talk about how your father has inspired you to continue to stay positive?
Yeah, his cancer is very takes a toll on you physically, and to see how my dad was transforming from when he was diagnosed to the day that he passed was it was pretty heartbreaking, but at the same time my dad's attitude never really faltered. So just to see someone who, my dad had just turned 70 in August, and to see someone who was in such good shape because he worked out 5 nights a week his whole life, and just such a healthy person go through such a physically taxing disease, and to see his attitude stay the same and never falter is pretty inspiring, and I'll never forget that.
So what would you like the audience to get the most from speakers from the Stay Positive night?
Well, the good thing about the bands is I know all the proceeds go to cancer, but at the end of the day, Stay Positive applies to literally everything. We all have those days where you do poorly on a test, or you get in a fight with your friends, or whatever happens, and your bad attitude affects the whole rest of your day. And I know it's unrealistic to have everybody say, I'm just unaffected by anything negative, but at the same time, if you can keep this message in your mind, or if you can look down at your wrist and say, okay, there's people going through worse things than I am, there's worse things happening, everything is bigger than just myself. I think it's pretty easy for you to kind of change your mindset and switch your perspective.
So overall, what would you like others to learn and to pass along to others from attending Stay Positive night?
Well, we hope that it's an emotional and inspirational night, and that people can really take something to their heart and kind of integrate that into who they are. I just think that when people get up there and start sharing their stories, and hopefully Eric and I will get to interact with all the people who want to talk to us and hear our stories, that some people will be affected, because at the end of the day, I think if they're going to come and be a part of the night, then they're expecting to have something like that happen. So I hope that that's what the results are.
And a question for both of you to answer: how has Stay Positive bonded your guys' relationship to become closer?
Well, one thing I've noticed is we're always talking about the bands. Where can we sell these? Who wants them? So it's nice because it gives us a reason to hang out. I mean, I'm not saying we wouldn't hang out regardless, but we're always, hey, why don't you come over? Hey, let's just play a game of Mario Kart too while you're here. So I mean, it's just awesome making us closer friends, not only with the wristbands, but out of it too.
Yeah, I mean the wristbands have definitely brought us together, but we had been friends before that, and then we'll always continue to be great friends, which is pretty sweet. That through my dad's illness, I kind of got to develop another strong friendship, and Eric reminds me a lot about how my dad was when he was sick, and that's just, it's comforting to have kind of a friend who reminds me of my dad's strength. So.
Well, what a very interesting campaign. Thank you very much for the both of you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Butler Beat. I'm JoJo Gentry.